Does your steering rack look like this? Well, don't worry, because in this video, I'm going to show you how to fix it. First, pop the hood, remove the power steering reservoir cap, turn on the engine and turn the steering wheel right exactly 180 degrees to access the steering shaft coupling bolt with a 12mm socket. Once loosened, pull the bolt and washer, then turn the wheel back 180 degrees. Ensure the steering wheel is centered and wheels pointing straight forward, then tie it down with the seatbelt. Next, loosen the fan shroud by removing these two bolts, this bolt in this clip, this bolt, and this bolt. You can see that the fan shroud here covers the fan, which is connected to the engine. So just push it up and backwards so it floats freely when you lift the engine. Now get the front end on jack stands and remove the wheels. Loosen the engine mount bolts on the driver's side. This is the rear driver's side, which has a loose nut, and this is the front driver's side, which has a captured nut. Loosen but don't remove the bolts on the passenger side mount. Slowly lift your engine on the driver's side by jacking up from here. Lift just enough to wedge a block of 2x4 between the mount and the frame. Count the number of threads here. You'll need this number for later when you install your new ends. Put your 25mm here and your 27mm here and crack that sucker loose. Use pliers to remove the cotter pin, a 22mm deep socket and breaker bar to remove the castle nut, and this special tie rod end puller to get the tie rod end off the knuckle. Now completely remove your tie rod end. Undo this clip with a flathead screwdriver. Loosen this bracket on the rack with a 12mm and this clamp with a 10mm. Then tie these lines out of the way near the grill. Now disconnect the front high pressure line with a 17mm socket. Save your banjo bolt and be sure to have your catch pan ready. You can toss this washer. Now for the dreaded rear return line. With a 17mm crow's foot, an extension, and a little bit of elbow grease, you can eventually get this line out. Just stay persistent. Use a 19mm to remove the mounting bolts on the driver's side. There's a bolt, nut, and washer here in the front, and another set in the back. Use a 19mm again to remove the mounting bolts on the passenger side. Now the rack should be free to wiggle out. First shift it all the way passenger, get the tie rod end out, roll it, and swing it all the way driver.
Nice.
Here's what it should look like once it's all out. You've got your dangling intermediate shaft here that you just separated from the rack, and your block of 2x4 wedged between the frame and the engine mount. Now when you slide in your new rack, bend this oil drip guide a little bit so everything fits. Remember, all the way passenger first, clear the tie rod, then shift the rack driver side back to center. Position your debushing, then place your U-bracket with two new bolts on top. Be sure to grease these splines, then have the rack shifted to the passenger side to get it to line up with the intermediate shaft joint. Once it's connected, you can shift the rack back to center. Now you can start tightening the passenger side mounting bolts. The service manual calls for 74 foot-pounds. Next are the driver's side bolts, washers, and nuts, and these should also be torqued to 74 foot-pounds per the factory service manual. Now starting with the rear return line, it can be tightened down with a 17mm, and the factory service manual calls for 33 foot-pounds of torque. Reusing the old banjo bolt with a new double-sided gasket, reconnect the front high pressure line with a 17mm and 36 foot-pounds of torque. Here I'm demonstrating how to torque down the rear line even more using a crow's foot. This is what it looks like with the lines fully tightened down. Reattach these hose brackets, clamps, and clips, and we're almost done. Thread on your lock nut and count the right number of threads, then install your outer tie rod end. Attach it to the steering knuckle and install the castle nut. This is a 22mm socket torqued down to 90 foot-pounds. Install your cotter pin. Tighten this lock nut to 41 foot-pounds. Use a 12mm to tighten the bolt connecting the input shaft to the intermediate shaft and torque to 25 foot-pounds. Now lift the engine, remove this block of wood, and slowly lower the engine back down. Refasten the bolts with a 14mm. Place a fresh new oil filter and hand tighten. Now reattach the fan shroud by fastening all these bolts we removed earlier. Reattach the wheels. Refill the reservoir with fresh ATF. Bleed the system. You can see my other video here for more details. And when you're all done, be sure to get an alignment, preferably at a shop that knows Land Cruisers. And if you're in the LA area like me, RPM Garage is the spot. And that's it. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And for a detailed write-up on how to do this job, see the description below.